Hi, my name is Helen Heinz. I'm a partner of the Private Client Services Department at Wigan & Dana. I'm going to discuss prenuptial agreements. We prepare prenuptial agreements for first marriages and second marriages. The goal of the agreement for the first marriage is typically the protection of inherited property, either that one or both of the parties has already received or will receive during the marriage. The goal of the agreement for the second marriage is typically protection of the property to be distributed to children of a prior marriage. The agreement is required to be in writing, signed and acknowledged by the parties. There should be full disclosure of the assets in writing attached to the agreement, and each party must have separate representation. The agreement must be fair at the time it is signed and not unconscionable at the time the agreement is to be enforced. There are four components of a prenuptial agreement. The first is the definition of separate property. Second, the definition of marital property. Third, addressing the rights of the parties in the event one dies during the marriage. And fourth, addressing the rights of the parties in the event of divorce. Separate property is generally defined to be the property the parties come into the marriage with, and property received by inheritance or gift, either prior to or during the marriage. Marital property is generally defined as property acquired by the parties during the marriage that is not defined as separate property, property that the parties put into joint names, and property that the parties earned during the marriage and compensation received by the parties during the marriage. The agreement will address spousal rights of inheritance. The parties may waive all rights to inheritance or maybe limit the waiver to just separate property of the other party. The agreement will address the rights of parties in the event of divorce and will address issues of property division and alimony. Typically, separate property will not be subject to division, and marital property will be divided 50-50. The agreement should provide for the division of property that is a mixture of separate property and marital property. The parties may waive alimony entirely or may decide to limit the scope of alimony. The agreement will not address child support or child custody issues, as those are always determined at the time of divorce by court. Prenuptial agreements are tailored to the specific needs and circumstances of the clients. They can be very heavily negotiated. Accordingly, it is very important to discuss preparing and negotiating a prenuptial agreement well in advance of a wedding.